Hi guys, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to the channel. These days, attention spans are short and calendars are packed. We don't get anybody's undivided attention for very long, and that's why it's important to cut to the chase when you're telling your story. Most of us are familiar with the concept of elevator speeches. Today I want to talk about how helpful it can be to have an elevator speech or a set of them that describes our discrimination story. The first few times I told my story, I wanted everybody to hear every detail. I went on, and I probably went in circles. I imagine a lot of us have been there. But as my case matured and I became more familiar with the law, I started to realize that all those details were making my story less powerful, not more. So I consciously started saying less and focusing what I did say on what I knew was going to matter at my hearing, how NASA violated the law and how that harmed me. It made a real difference in how people responded to my story. My elevator speech started with my claims. Our claims lay out the legal basis of our complaint, what our employer did, how that violated the law, how that harmed us. Those are the things that EEOC cares about. I'll show you how I did it. Here are two of my claims. NASA discriminated on the basis of disability when they refused to engage in an interactive dialogue and failed to provide effective reasonable accommodations for my IBSD in violation of the Rehabilitation Act, which exacerbated the stress-driven symptoms of my disability, harmed my mental health, alienated me from coworkers, friends, and family, forced me to deplete my leave, and harmed my professional standing among my peers, all of which made it much harder for me to do my job. When I complained to the diversity office and my chain of command about my boss's failure to reasonably accommodate my covered disability, the agency retaliated by wrongfully accusing me of misconduct, threatening to terminate me, and subjecting me to ongoing harassment and hostility which harmed me in these ways. My elevator speech summed up those two claims like this. When I asked my boss to reasonably accommodate me for my covered disability, she flatly refused. When I complained to NASA's diversity office, NASA retaliated by wrongfully accusing me of misconduct, threatening to have me fired, and alienating me from my peers. That made it impossible for me to function effectively at work. It harmed my physical and mental health, harmed my personal and professional relationships, hurt my self-esteem, and after a 34-year career, robbed me of my sense of belonging at NASA. Now that's not my whole story with all the juicy details, but it is a very clear, quick look at what my case against NASA was all about. If you do a good enough job with your elevator speech, eventually somebody's going to ask you for more details. And I took this same elevator speech approach to those stories as well. For instance, that very first meeting where I requested reasonable accommodation from my boss. She flatly refused to discuss it and immediately removed me from my flexible schedule. She called me names, mocked me, accused me of things I didn't do and threatened to fire me for them. And she refused my request for representation. She verbally battered me for over 3 hours before a peer finally convinced her to stop. Now, the first time I told that story, I went through every little detail, everything she said, and exactly what I said back, and how she looked at me when she said it, and how she rolled her eyes at me when I talked. Every little detail. It was a pretty intense story, and I could actually see people's eyes glazing over when I told it. I got a much better response to the elevator version. I mean, in the beginning, that's what we all do. But the sooner we can move past the deluge of details and emotions and start making logical and legal sense of our story, the better our chances for finding someone that will hear us and help us. A good elevator speech does more than communicate what happened. It communicates who you are and the way you're approaching your case. It demonstrates that you understand the difference in what's important to you as a human being, as opposed to what's important to the law. It shows that you bothered to learn the rules and language of the game you're playing. It shows that you have the emotional maturity to set aside your heavy emotions and think logically about your case. It shows that you respect other people's time enough to keep it short and on point, and all of that is going to help you get heard. Attorneys, investigators, judges, even YouTube helpers like me are vastly outnumbered by people who need our help. We only have so much energy to go around. So we tend to concentrate our energy on the people that we see trying to help themselves. An elevator speech is one way to show us that you're putting in an effort. An elevator speech has other benefits too. First, it can help you remember your claims. For me, it was a lot easier to remember the elevator version of my claims than it was to remember the legalese version. Besides the speech itself, going through the process of distilling your story is one of the best things you can do for yourself in your case. The earlier in your process you can do it, the better off you'll be. Certainly by the time you're headed into your hearing, you're going to need the kind of clarity that this process can give you. When you understand your case well enough to distill it down to an elevator speech, that understanding is going to benefit you in just about everything we have to do, whether it's answering motions, testifying, or trying to make the most of our evidence. That understanding is going to help you lay out your evidence and testimony in a logical way that supports your story. I think elevator speeches are so important that I've decided to ask you to write your own for a chance to win a free 1-hour consult with the experts at Informed Fed. You can base your elevator speech on your claims the way I did, or you can do it another way. The important thing is to be able to explain to someone who doesn't know you and didn't work at your agency what your employer did, how it violated the law, and how that harmed you, as clearly and concisely as you can. And then, as sort of a tiebreaker, tell me why it's important for you to get this kind of expert help at this stage of your process. Maybe you have a mixed case that you just can't figure out on your own. Or maybe the discrimination is new to you and you're trying to work out a way to fix it without having to involve EEOC. Whatever your situation is, tell me what you're going through and why you need help right now. And email your entries here by 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on November 22nd. I'll announce the winner on November 29th. And if there's a lot of response to this, I'll announce another winner the following week. So that's what I got for you guys today. I'll see you guys again next week. Till then, take care and hang in. Fight smart and hang in to win. I want to thank those of you who sent thoughts, prayers, good vibes, whatever. We appreciate it.